This unit 3, is about exponential. I don't know if I spelled that correctly or not, but it's exponential. You've heard of that before, exponential growth, exponential decay, all that kind of stuff. So you are going to be, I don't want to say the spoiler yet, okay? Here's the table. Let's see if you can figure out the pattern of what's happening, and this is going to be all about unit 3. So I have 2, and then after 2 goes 4. And then after that we go 8. If you thought 6, you're stuck in unit 1 right now, but you'll see what I'm talking about. And then after that, I'm going to say 16. And after that, 32. And after that, 64. 128. And then, okay, what's happening? Multiplying by 2. So instead of the linear of like plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, now we're shifting to multiplying by 2. So your entire brain should be shifted into multiplication and division instead of addition and subtraction like we have been doing, okay? So, cool. What this is called, exponential, is going to be, I say multiplying, right? So exponential, you're multiplying or dividing, okay? If you want to write that down. This is pretty much the only type of notes thing I want you to know. And the very popular word is common. Last time we had a common difference. It was the difference of what you're adding and subtracting by. This is now called a common ratio. Common ratio. Okay. That's really the only vocab term you need to know. Okay. That and starting amount, but everybody knows what starting amount is. Okay. So there you go. The common ratio for this would be what? What? Times 2. You're just going by 2. So the common ratio would be 2 because you're multiplying by 2. Cool. Now, this is the exercise I want you to be able to do. It is on the back of your 3-1 paper, but I'm going to give you 4 blanks right here. I'm going to say that this is a 2 right now. All I'm going to tell you is the common ratio is 2. You need to be able to extend the table to be able to find out what this thing is. So if the common ratio is 2, then what would this be? 4, okay, and then after that we do, oh my God, it's the same thing as that, right? That's how you do a common ratio. But this is the first challenging question of the day. Welcome back from the break. What would this be? Most common, popular, wrong answer is 0. I heard one of the 4. Oh, you're on this way now. You're multiplying by 2, right? But what operation was I doing this way? Times 2. So that if I go backwards, I'm going to divide by 2, right? And dividing by 2 is kind of like cutting things in half, right? So 8 divided by 2, 4 divided by 2, 2 divided by 2, 1. Okay? To keep the brain challenge going, what would happen here? Ooh, not 1. What am I doing each time? Each time I'm doing what to it? You can. I'm doing what? I'm dividing by 2, right? So then it would be 1 divided by 2, which is 0.5. You see that? Right? Because you're taking 1 and you're dividing it by 2, which is the same thing as a half. Right? If you cut it in half. Okay, you see how those are the same? And then if I did it again, I don't want to make you struggle with this, but half of a half is a fourth, or 0.25. Yeah. If I'm going to stay in fraction mode, you'll see why later. But if I have a whole pizza and I cut it in half, you got 2 whole big, half moon slices. And if I cut it in half again, then you have the 4. If I cut it in half again, an 1/8, right? Which is usually what pizza is, in 8 slices, if you didn't know that. Okay. And if I cut it in again, a 16th, and then you get the idea. It's the same pattern. And yeah, exactly. Okay. So this is the idea I want you to see. And the other concept I want you to think about, and I want you to blow your brains up on the first day. Will this ever get to be 0? No, which is weird to think about, okay? If I have something and I cut it in half, it's half of what it was. And then if I cut it in half again, and half again, will it ever just... No, that's not going to be a thing. So you have to understand this is getting infinitely smaller, never 0 though. We'll talk more about that later. And this is getting infinitely larger. And you see it gets 128, 256. It just goes faster, 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 okay? So now let's do it again with a common ratio of 10. Okay, that's an easy common ratio. So if I have these blanks here, let's throw out a 5 right there. What would be the next one? Oh, 50. Yeah, and then the next one, 500. And the next one, y'all know the trick with the zeros, right? You just add a 0 to the end of each one, okay? Now, I don't know if you know this trick, but what would this one be? Well, first of all, what operation am I doing? What? I'm dividing by 10. So I'm multiplying by 10. Now I'm going to divide by 10. And if you notice, if I have 500, I divide by 10, it's 50. I divide by 10, what's happening to the zeros, right? You all seen the decimal place be moved and all that kind of stuff, right? So what would this one be? If it's normally 5, it would be 0.5, yeah, or 0.5, yeah, okay. And the next one would be 0.05, and the next one would be 0.005. You get another pattern that you see here, okay. Now, I'm going to take a detour here, okay. I'm going to take a detour here. I'm going to go a different route, okay. And this might make sense or confuse you. I hope it confuses you, because that's when you learn stuff. All right. What's happening? I'm asking redundant questions on purpose. What is happening when I go backwards here? If my common ratio is times 10, what's happening if I go backwards? I'm dividing by 10. So I take 50 divided by 10. I would do what to here? 5. What am I doing to the 5 when I go backwards? Divide by 10. 5 divided by 10. What's 5 divided by 10 reduced to? It's 5 over 10 reduces fractions. Remember how that works? 5 over 10. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, 1/2. And what is 1/2? 0.5. See what I'm saying? So 5 over 10 reduces to 1/2, and that's the same thing. See, that's all the same thing. So another way I could say this is 5 over 100, or 5 over 1,000, right? And it's the same pattern, okay? So either way works. We're going to probably be in fraction mode, so that's why I wanted to show you this, because fractions are going to be a little easier than decimals when we get into the bigger problems. So, cool. Now, the only other example I want to give is, what if you have a CR. I keep thinking of D&D terms when I see CR. It's common ratio, there we go, is 1/2. Okay, what's weird about having a common ratio of 1/2? Why is that weird? Let's throw out a 10 right here. So what would this be? So a common ratio is what? How would you define a common ratio? What is a common ratio? What you multiply by. Exactly. Very well said. So this is what I multiply by. So I would have 10, and then I've done that divided by. Interesting. I'm multiplying this by 1/2. So it would be 5. 1/2, right? I'm multiplying by 1/2. Okay. Multiplying by 1/2 is the same thing as dividing by 2. Did y'all see that here? Right? Or the whole backwards forwards thing. Okay. So then after 5, we'd have 2.5, and so on and so on. Okay. If I go backwards though, what would this be? I'm glad I showed this example because this is really tripping y'all up. What? 20. Yeah. Because I'm basically like multiplying by 1/2, as you see, is like the same thing as what? Dividing by 2, right? So then it's I want y'all to be able to see that. Yeah.
It's like it's flipped.
Yeah. It's like it's flipped because you're saying 1 divided by 2, which is the opposite of saying times 2, right? So but again, I just want to get that show y'all that there. So number 1 on your assignment is this little chart up here. Okay. There's some word problems there, and it says that you start off and there's a ball. It's a certain amount of height in the air. You drop the ball, and like a basketball, it bounces up high, and then bounces up a little less, and then bounces less, and less, and less. And they measure the height each time, okay? So, what is the starting amount based on the 3.1 that's in front of you right now? Starting amount. What? 1,000. Yes, it's 1,000. Now on the sheet of paper it says 800, 500, and then 400, and it lists off 4 numbers. If it lists off 4 numbers, that's not the 0, right? They listed off after 1 hour, this happened, and then the next and the next. So this one's always the first, second, third, fourth, if they ever list off a series of numbers. But I'm making my table here. So my first value is that 800. Second value is 640. And then we have what, 512? And then 409.6. If I remember off the top of my head. Okay. So there's all the values and stuff. Okay. Now, can you just look at this and just know what the ratio is or what it's multiplying by? I cannot look at 3-digit numbers and see what it's multiplying by and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's not going to be a thing. On the paper, it does say what the answer is, but I don't want to get into that. I want to show you how to find it without being told the answer. Okay. So, how could you find out what you're multiplying by each time? Ooh, okay. So remember, think back in unit 1. If I had 15 and then 27 and then 39 and then 51, how would you find out what's in between each of these? Subtract, right? So if you don't know what you add, you could subtract to find out, right? So 27 minus 15 is 12, and that means 15 plus 12 is 27, right? And it works, right? So I can do the same thing here. I don't know what I multiply by, but I could divide, right? So 800, what would I do with the 800? What would I do with the 800? Subtract? Ooh, I would not subtract. What? Divide by 1,000, right? I take this and divide by that, just like I did 27 minus 15 to find out what I would add, okay? So there's that, cool. And then, got it? So do that, you figure out the math on that, calculate, and you get 0.8. You get 0.8. And just as a shot in the dark, what do you think 512 divided by 640 is? Probably 0.8. It's all 0.8. Okay, so the biggest thing, this is probably the most important thing so far. If you have a series of numbers that are something multiple, you don't know what you're multiplying by, divide backwards, just like you did with subtraction on the last unit 1, unit 2, and all the other tests we've been doing. Okay, so once you find out that you are multiplying by 0.8 each time, right? And on the actual assignment, it says blah, 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 80% of the previous. So that's 80%. 0.8 is the same thing as 80%. Okay. How would you find out this fifth blank here? Take this and multiply by 0.8. Yes. And that's it. Okay. So my question, and if this is it's going to lead into the next unit, is what is the starting value for this word problem? The starting value. 1,000, okay, a sub 0. What is the common ratio? 0.8, that's it. Okay, if you know that, you'll be able to do your y equals equation from there, and that is all done.